We look forward to our chat with Pat every day. Always an engaging conversation and always a terrific guest to chat with, Pat. Who you got today?
Today we've got Joseph Pronechen. I think I'm saying that right. He's a staff writer with the National Catholic Register since 2005, and he's was a regular correspondent for the paper, and he's had articles appear in numerous national publications. If I read them all, the interview would be over. Okay. But we're going to talk about an article that I've been kind of talking about this concept of the last few weeks, but it's called "What is Forgiveness?" and it's in the National Catholic Register. Welcome, Joseph. How you doing today?
Thank you, Pat. I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I am hanging in there. Another wonderful article, Joseph. And you mentioned certainly this comes on the heels of Erica Kirk, Charlie's death, his murder, and how she on national television forgave the person who killed him. And that really shocked a lot of people. And I think it has to do with the misunderstanding of forgiveness. And so you do a wonderful job bringing kind of four people into this article. Jennifer Hubbard, who lost her daughter at Sandy Hook, or was killed. I think it's Timothy Locke, who is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, Monsignor Pope, and Rachel Muha, who lost a son. So can you give us kind of the things, because there's so much packed in here, Joe. I just want to kind of focus on things that really stood out for you.
Okay, yeah. One of the things that stood out for me, Pat, was that, we hear the adage, forgive and forget. And that's not really healthy. The Catholic, Dr. Locke said, in fact, others said that too. I think Monsignor Pope did, because there was so much in the article, I couldn't get it all in so much space. Limited space.
It was a great article.
Slavery's still around. Writers are slaves to word count, unfortunately, sometimes.
I know, that's terrible, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that one really stood out, the forgive and forget reality, because forgiveness is not it's not a feeling. It's not ignoring, it's not condoning. It's not pretending it never happened and it's say, well, I got to forget all about that. You remember it, he said, so you can deepen that forgiveness and live that forgiveness. And and you can go back that. And and one thing he said, and once you forgive, write it down. I'm kind of skipping ahead what he said, but you write it down, and he says you have it right there. I forgave. So if the bad feelings of unforgiveness come back, you say, no, I did forgive. There it is right there. But he says it's a process. It's like it's not a light switch going on and off, but it's a dimmer switch. It goes very, very gradually. It'll go away, like in the case of possibly from Jennifer Hubbard. I've spoken to her a number of times over the years, and you could see that. I could see that, and she's really, a model example of forgiveness in such a horrible situation, and all. Monsignor Pope, I love some of the things that Monsignor Pope brought out. He says, because if you just hang on to this, he says it's like carrying around bowling balls of anger. He says and resentment, and he says it's not freeing us; it's harming us more than that person in that regard. So you give it to God.
Yeah, that old adage that it's like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die. You're really just harming yourself. I love that old adage, and he brings it up in the article. One of the things that Jennifer talks about that I found intriguing, and it kind of goes along with kind of where you're taking us here, is that forgiveness really is a process. It is not just a moment. I forgive you and I move on, right?
Right. It's not that. It takes time. It takes a while. You have to constantly look to God. You have to constantly ask God for that forgiveness and that mercy on the person. It's very, very difficult to do that. But she says, but when you do that, and you forgive, she says, and the other said too, it's not a matter of saying, okay, forgive and forget. I'm going to, you're off the hook. Right. Jesus forgave the good thief on the cross, but he didn't take away the punishment. So,
Yes.
they were still liable for that punishment. So you could pray for you could pray for that person. You could pray for that person's conversion. You could pray for good to happen to him. In other words, the best is the good. Like St. Thomas, the Thomistic philosophy of love, is willing the good together. So you wish that person would come to their senses and convert and save their soul ultimately in the face of all this evil that they particularly caused to you and to others.
And I think part of the issue for forgiveness for some people, and I think you bring it out really well in the article with what Jennifer Hubbard says, is that sometimes people think if I forgive, that means this person has no consequences. And she is very clear that forgiveness and kind of being, consequences for your action are two different things. And that's, I think you said that very well with talking about Jesus and the cross, right?
Yes. So thank you. Yeah, and that's so important for people to remember too. Like Monsignor Pope said, I love that what he is saying too. That you give it to God. You say, say you take care of it, and God says, to you, give it to me. He says, I'll take care of it. Those people who did the bad things to you or to others are going to have to answer to me for it. Now you just, let look at what God said in that regard, and be assured that He will take care of it one day. In some way or other, He'll handle it. So, and that way you don't have to have those bowling balls of anger carried around with you. Because this is an important point too. Because Dr. Locke said. And I've seen this elsewhere, too. If you carry around that unforgiveness and resentment, you're only hurting yourself physically. You're hurting your blood pressure. You're hurting your heart. You're hurting other organs of your body. Because ultimately, it's backfiring on you. And so that's important to keep in mind. You're only harming yourself in that regard, too. Not just mentally and possibly spiritually, but physically, too.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, too, that Hubbard brings up that you quote in the article is that idea that we've got to kind of, keep our eyes on Christ. So often we just fixate on what somebody did to us. And then the feelings come back and all of that kind of stuff. And like you said, if we're looking at Christ and we're looking at the cross and we keep our eyes on Him, then we won't fixate so much on what someone has done to us. It starts to kind of change our vision in a sense, correct?
Right, exactly. So like Dr. Locke says, you make that choice. Number one, the 4 steps, you make that choice to forgive. Then you go, the second one is you abandon your right to resentment and negative judgment toward whoever's injured us. And then third, you give some kind of a good. So, you want to be generous and even maybe love for the offender. In that regard, I'm suggesting pray for their conversion. And also, like Jennifer Hubbard did too, and Rachel Muha did, you bring good to somebody else out of it. Both of them founded organizations in honor of their loved one, and to help others. In one case, to help animals, because her little 6-year-old loved animals, and in Rachel's case, her son wanted to be a doctor, and this was to actually bring others who were in the situation of growing up into being killers like her son's killers were, to try to get them out of that pattern of hatred and whatnot. As little children, get them out of that.
Right. And so we're called to cooperate with God in bringing good out of evil, aren't we?
Exactly.
Oh, Joe, thanks so much for being with us today, and thanks really for this article. It was a wonderful article, and have a good week ahead, okay?
Oh, thank you, Pat. And you also. And thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.